Hello and welcome to Tiananmen Square and to China and for the second tour of Beijing, which began here exactly 1 year ago. And it's the final event in the World Tour Series. And as you can see, overnight the weather has changed here in China. Strong winds are blowing, blue sky indeed, and the famous smog of Beijing has blown away. But the overnight rain has brought chillier conditions as well for the riders. They now assemble for the start of the first stage, 117 kilometers. But as the crow flies, the finishing line just about 25 kilometers away from the start. As the crowd here now makes ready for the event. The event now in its second year, bringing together 143 riders, 19 World Tour teams, the one exception being the Chinese Champion System team, which get the ride by virtue of the fact they are the national team racing here in Beijing. The strong winds blowing over the bikes there of the team from Vacansoleil and Johnny Hoogerland, as everybody else seems to be enjoying what is rather mild conditions. Heinrich Hausler there stepping off the podium, a stage winner in this event 1 year ago. As all of the riders now sign in for this opening day of 5 days of racing, taking them through to next Saturday, where the race will finish with quite a hilly stage. Adam Hansen, one of the few riders to have ridden all 3 Grand Tours this year, the Tours of Spain, Italy and France. I think happy atmosphere for the riders too. They've been here 4 to 5 days now. Now it's time to get on with the action. This is the Spanish Movistar team signing in. The Omega Pharma Quick-Step team and last year's winner Tony Martin coming on to sign in at the number 1 in the race. He won this race by virtue of his opening time trial victory, right by where he's signing in at the moment when he won the time trial, and he held it all the way to the finish. Edward Boysenhagen there, just fresh off a silver medal in the World Road Race Championship in Valkenburg in Holland. Another silver medalist at the same World Championships in the time trial this time, Taylor Phinney. And good to see the return of Andy Schleck, who could not make the Tour de France this year after a very nasty crash in the Dauphiné Libéré race just before the Tour started. It's his first big race back, and he's hoping now, as he said earlier in his press conference, his season starts now. This is the route they face today, the Tour of Beijing, starting down in the centre of Beijing at Tiananmen Square, and the entrance there to the Forbidden City. They'll make their way around the North 3rd Ring Road onto the circuit, and once onto the circuit they'll pass through the finishing line, 12 laps of the finishing circuit. The circuit approximately 7.5 kilometres. The start, Jaime Bruggen forgetting to fire the pistol, but he's on time at the end as the field rolls away here. All 143 riders. And in fact, they won't be too far away from the hotel where they base themselves here. The Continental Grand Hotel here in Beijing is just about 2 kilometers away from the finishing line. Riders making their way from outside the Imperial Palace, which is better known to all tourists as the Forbidden City. It was the home for 24 emperors through 2 of China's dynasties, and it is the largest wooden palace in the world. Neutralised start for the riders as they roll away, heading out east towards the entry point to the circuit. Then they turn north and head up towards the finishing circuit, which is right in the shadow of the Olympic Stadium of 2008, the Bird's Nest, and on the opposite side to the Water Cube, which was the home to all of the swimming events in the 2008 Olympics. Tony Martin happy to be back, but a little bit pessimistic about his chances of repeating his victory because of the lack of a time trial. On the far side there, enjoying life with him, the German road race champion Fabian Weckmann. Downtown Beijing, combining its modern architecture with its ancient history. And for those who know Beijing, it sits in a bowl really, tucked inside the mountains. Well, this year we'll be going into the heart of some of those mountains as the riders make their way out over the next 5 days of racing. But for today at least, should be a day for the sprinters, although the anticipated quick start speeds up to 55 kilometers an hour. Little breakaway trying to establish very early on as it races now towards those 12 laps of the finishing circuit based on the Olympic Park. Taking a look over his shoulder there, Jetse Bol from the Netherlands on the Rabobank cycling team. Also trying to move with the breakaway is Lopez Herrada of the Movistar team. These are the 5 riders establishing the breakaway now. The other riders having fallen back. Bandiera, Landanu, Mallory, Lindemann and Craig Lewis of the USA. He's the rider in the picture just at the moment, and Craig is part of the Champion System Pro Cycling team here, which gets its first big crack on a World Tour race, because they're not a World Tour team, but by virtue of the fact they are the national team here, they get to ride on the World Tour event. Marco Bandiera of Italy, he's what we call a super domestique here on his team, Omega Pharma Quick Step. Now trying to establish a lead, and there's no reaction coming at all from the field here as they race across these 4 and 5 lane highways. This is the ring road number 3. Series of ring roads around the center of Beijing gradually move you out of the city. Once we're off on the 3rd ring road, we'll swing on to the finishing circuit on Olympic Park itself. Back in the main field, you've got Andy Schleck, who had this broken pelvis just before the start of the Tour de France in the Dauphiné, and it's not really gone away either. He's tried to come back once or twice without success. I noticed even at breakfast yesterday morning in the hotel, he was putting all his pressure on his right leg and holding his left leg off the ground. I think he's still in quite a lot of pain. Number 41 there, different story for Samuel Sanchez, as he is the Olympic champion of exactly 4 years ago now. Happy memories at Beijing, and said he wants a result here this next week, and the course much more suited to him this time out than it has been last year. More hills to suit his style of riding. He also recovering from a couple of nasty crashes, including one in the Tour de France this year too. Result of the first sprint as they go through, and small time bonuses there. That was on lap number 3 of the circuit, which is where we are now. Ladagno getting the 3-second time bonus ahead of Bandera and Landemann's. Bert Lindemann's in fact in his first full pro season, and has already had a win in the circuit of Drenthe, which is a very good early season race in Holland. Well, they better get used to the sight of the Bird's Nest Olympic Stadium today, because the circuit is never far away from this grand spectacle here in the center of Beijing. But the wind itself proving quite troublesome. It is because it is a rectangular circuit that they're on now. It's crosshead all the time with a little bit of tail. And it doesn't seem to be affecting the breakaway at the moment, because the early lead, when they came onto the circuit, they had a lead of 1 minute and 45 seconds. No reaction from the field whatsoever. A lot of work being done by Orica Greenedge back in the bunch, particularly by their Canadian rider, Christian Meyer. And that's because they believe they've got the sprinters to handle the race if it comes together for that finishing sprint. They're on the back side of the stadium here now as they circumnavigate the circuit. The finish is actually on directly opposite them as they move out on the other side of the river. The main field always keeping these riders within their gun sights, really. The signs it is coming down. It's dropped down from 1:45 to 1 minute and 30. They're not allowing that breakaway too much leeway. The turquoise jerseys there of Astana, who seem to be all set to change their director sportif now, because since arriving here, Guido Bontempi, the Italian, has been told he's no longer required on the team, and it looks as though the team is now lining up to fall under the wing of Alexander Vinokurov, the new Olympic road race champion in London, who's now announced his retirement with a race in Monaco just a couple of days ago. Champion of China here in the red and yellow, and that is Zhu Jiang, 5 times the national champion. Last year he was riding here in the red jersey of China itself, but now they have their own professional team, the Champion Systems team. Here for experience, yes, but he is quite an experienced rider. He's won some good races around Asia in particular, and Asian cycling now improving every season. There's a full racing calendar in Asia now. A lot of the Australian pro teams enjoying flying into Asia for these events. 131. Hot tip on everybody's lips today is Theo Bos, just peeping into our picture there. 6 wins for him this year. Very good sprinter. And has already told us he's going to win today, so we'll see. No passengers in the breakaway at all at the moment. The mauve jersey there of Adriano Malori, former under-23 world time trial champion and the former Italian time trial senior champion as well, despite his young age. He one of the riders who qualifies in that breakaway for the best young rider competition if it were to stay away today. There's Bos, riding pretty near the back of the peloton at the moment. Shape changing, particularly now since he stopped his track cycling. He's looking a lot more like a road racing cyclist these days, Theo Bos. Being trailed there by the champion of Austria, I think it was, just behind him. That's the bottom of the course where they switch sides. Heading back in, basically always within the confines of the Olympic Park. Very rarely are they outside the Olympic Park now as they continue their circuit here, and the blue sky staying with us because the rain was forecast to continue towards the afternoon, and this is mid-afternoon here in China. As they now, this is one of the most difficult stretches of the road here where they catch the wind. It's unfavourable. You can see by the breakaway that they're finding the wind now quite troublesome. They're having to really push on to share the work in this line, but so far we haven't seen any passengers in this breakaway. Mathieu Ledanu at the front in the white on the FDJ team of Marc Madio, who manages to get some tremendous results from his French riders despite the fact that they are not one of the top teams on the World Tour, yet they do get results all of the time. Just tagging on to the back there is Bert Lindemann. And it looks as though Zhang here looking for a drink. Falls out the back of the race. Absolutely no hurry at all in this main peloton, and yet the speed is up today. They're doing around about 47 kilometers an hour average on this flat course. Not a ripple on the course for the riders. That's always the leaky gas Cannondale point. This is Cristiano Salerno setting the pace at the front for the challenge. They've got 2 very good sprinters here, Moreno Moser and Elia Viviani. Heinrich Hausler, who's had a stage win in this event. He scored very early on in this event last year. But so far, not a win on the box for the man from Australia, although he's also of German parentage, but he's chosen now to settle down as an Australian. Comes from Inverell, about 2.5 hours drive outside of Sydney. Bandiera is the rider at the front of the race just at the moment. Dropping down to the back here is Adriano Malori, 23 years of age. 54, Ledanu, 3 Tours de France, finished them all. Rode his first Tour de France back in 2007. Well, they know that they're going absolutely nowhere this breakaway. They have seen time checks. The time checks have come down from the 1:45. That was the biggest they've had as they came on to start the 12 circuits of 7.5 kilometers. The Danube just talking to them there, probably trying to give them a little bit of help and encouragement, because this is the hard stretch of the circuit as they make their way back round to the start-finish line. The peloton, though, continual now to be driven. Rabobank taking an interest along with Christian Meyer on the Orica Green Edge, who's done an awful lot of work to keep that team up near the front, but Rabobank too are now thinking of Theo Bos for the finish. Lampre, they've got a good sprinter in Alessandro Patacchi, 170 plus wins for him as a professional. He's won more races than any other professional rider currently on the World Tour circuit. With 4 pretty hard days to come, and the organisation this year, based on the strength that they got a lot of experience organising a race in China last year, have now been much more ambitious with the actual stages, and there's 2 very hilly races here. Andy Schleck looking around, admiring the scenery perhaps, or just checking himself as to how he's actually feeling, because he has fluid on the lower lumbar region of his back there, which is causing him quite a bit of pain. But he felt he had to make a start at some stage this year to take him in for a good season next year, and he's already said that for him today is the start of next season as far as he's concerned, and he's doing it for the fans because he hasn't been on the bike since last June. Racing in anger, that is. He's been trying desperately to get himself into some form of shape, but with a broken pelvis, rest seems to be the only answer. Rabobank happy to share the pace now, along with Orica Green Edge, Liquigas. Those are the first three teams constantly at the front, and the rider doing a lot of work at the front for Rabobank is Juan Manuel Garate, former Spanish champion, former stage winner of the Tour de France at Mont Ventoux. Up through the finishing straight here. They know this finishing straight well now as they continue to go through. Absolutely no problems whatsoever. But it is a very narrow finish. Normally the finish is around about 8 meters wide, but because of the gantry, which ironically is no longer here because it blew down before the start in the strong winds, the road restricted to 6 meters, which could be a problem if it's a big bunch sprint for the line. 47 kilometers still to go to the finish. The gap just over a minute now. Craig Lewis from South Carolina in the United States, but bases himself over here. Just gives way there to Ledanu, who's had an excellent breakaway. He's picked up a few seconds in time bonuses. That's also an innovation this year in this event, because with the time trial last year and no time bonuses, the actual race overall was virtually the same as the result of the time trial 5 days later. The only man missing out was third in the time trial, and that was Alex Dowsett, who had a problem out on the road race and dropped away. Everybody else held their positions. Dowsett in the race again this time around, but no time trial, which means that these small time bonuses for a while could shape the overall race lead. There's 10 seconds for the win, 6 seconds and 2 seconds, and out on the course the two sprints are 3, 2 and 1 seconds in time bonuses. Still Christian Meyer, the Canadian from Vancouver, who's doing all the work here for Orica Green Edge. Garate goes round just behind him in second place. For Rabobank, they're quite happy to do the pacemaking, but their actual sprinters seem to be settled in quite a long way down the field at the moment. But when you see a field stretch out as long as that, then you know the pressure has suddenly gone on at the front. And that gap is going to continue to come down now. It'll be inside a minute next time around if they continue with that pressure. This is a place where they can take their drinking bottles. Those people are not spectators. They are actually the helpers of the teams trying to pass up bottles to the riders. It's quite a hot day, 24, 25 degrees despite the wind. Beijing, of course, does have a very cold winter, which is due to start in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. But perfect conditions for a cycle race. Some of the riders may not like the wind strength just at the moment, and if it blows on the big road race stages to come after today, it could be very troublesome indeed. Still stamping on those pedals, Bert-Jan Lindemann from Holland in his first full season as a pro, and he's been very, very strong today, anxious to keep this breakaway clear. Remember, it got away in the opening kilometres as they left Tiananmen Square, and just inside the last 40 kilometres to go, they're having a long time out front here, and there's still no passengers. Just reaching his back pocket there is Jess Sargent, the New Zealand rider from Radio Shack. Euskaltel Euskadi, the team from the Basque Country of Spain, although all of the riders these days are not all from the Basque Country, which used to be their trademark. Now, chance at the front. The sharp end is still working away, but notice in the centre of the pack here, there's a lot of movement going on, except from Alessandro Patacchi because he's on his lunch break, having a drink out of his bottle there. Just making sure that the teammates contribute to the breakaway, perhaps keep this race well in touch. This is very typical pro racing on an opening day. A breakaway clear, keep it under control, but take the pressure off the peloton, because if they catch that breakaway, that you can bet your life there'll be a lot of attacks go from the bunch, which is what the sprinters don't want. Martin Kohler there with a white cross on his back, the champion of Switzerland, moving up there and taking a teammate with him in the form of Mauro Sant'Ambrogio, the Italian sprinter number 36 there. Nice little scurry to the front there too for Steven Kruijswijk, one of the real finds for Rabobank, one of the young riders of the future, having a terrific season, Kruijswijk. Little peek inside the bowl of the Bird's Nest. This was the iconic setting 4 years ago in 2008, and when that was lit up, it was an incredible sight in the dark. Just sat at the back here, not too concerned, is Steve Cummings, the British rider on the American BMC team. He's just off camera at the moment in Ready. Had a tremendous lone win this year in the Vuelta a España, by far his biggest race on the road. He's had a few top medals on the track in the Olympics as well, but his lone win in the Vuelta really was very special to him this year. He's on good form as well. He's been out training all the way up to the wall, which if you go out to the wall here in Beijing, it's about 60 kilometers ride. They came back with 120 kilometers under their wheels. This is the approach to the second time bonus sprint of the day here, and it looks as though Mallory wants them now. This is how to lose time, because they're not starting the sprint, they're waiting for somebody else to have a go. Craig Lewis to decide that he's going to go. Now he's got Ledanu on his back wheel, and Ledanu's already got one and the 3 second bonus. He's now perfectly poised to take the second 3 seconds, and that will give him 6 seconds bonus, and will stand him in very first stead if this breakaway gets caught for a high position overnight in the overall. Takes it with ease there, followed over the line by Bert Lindemann. He will get 2 seconds, and the third place going to Marco Bandiera. He gets a 1 second for third place. So that's 6 seconds in time bonuses now for the French rider, and that's going to stand him in good stead, because if they do get caught, and the odds are they will, because the peloton is not very far behind them at all now, you can see them in the distance, then he'll need to hang on to that big bunch as he comes through to claim a high place overall, because the winner will pull on the first leader's yellow jersey, red jersey rather at the moment. It's red in the Tour of China, and because he'll get a 10-second time bonus for that. Another look at it, Craig Lewis leading it out. They've lost quite a few seconds in the dicing for position for this sprint. They slowed right down, and that's going to cost them dearly, I think. But the Frenchman wanted to win the bonus, and he's got it. And there's the peloton coming through now, and they are inside 1 minute behind as they go out. 5 laps still to go. Actually, it was 1 minute and 3 seconds as they went over the line there. Very manageable indeed, 63 seconds on this circuit, because unfortunately with these wide boulevards and long straights, you can now see the riders all the time in that breakaway. Still, it's the Orica riders driving the race at the front. Everybody else quite happy to let them do it. And it's probably because Orica Green Edge, they were entertained by the ambassador to China from Australia here yesterday evening, and also their Asian sponsors, Orica, from the Asian offices, Singapore, Hong Kong and China, are all here watching. So they promised them a win today. So maybe that's why Christian Meyer is doing a lot of work on the front. Wind pushing the riders right across 6 lanes of highway there over to the left-hand side of the road. Makes it very difficult to make progress up the peloton at those sort of speeds. Ledanu, there's the confirmation of the result, gets 10 points and the bonus, 3 seconds. Lindemann gets 5 points and 2 seconds. And Bandiera gets 5 points as well. They're the points towards the green jersey points competition, which also is contested on the finish as well. Nice time to see Johan van Sommen. Tall, ungainly rider, but a very, very fast rider indeed. He's only won 5 races in his career, but he also claimed the classic race Paris-Roubaix a couple of years ago, which was a very, very popular win indeed. Not too far from his Belgium home, just over the borders in France. Huge win for him, fully deserved. It was on a really bad day weather-wise, with the cobblestones of northern France as well. And without doubt the greatest win of his career. Quite a way down the peloton for the Garmin Sharp rider just now. He races for the American team, Garmin Sharp. Steve Cummings still happy to ride at the back of the race as they really stretch out coming off these bends now. It's very, very hard to ride at the back of the peloton when they stretch out there. Now it's down to 50 seconds now. So this is the first time it's been inside a minute since they came onto this circuit. Just looking back here, this is Martin Weiner. It's Jilinghi. He's also recovering from a bad injury this year, just like Andy Schleck. And just checking in with the team car. Jilinghi broke his hip in the Tour de France with a very nasty crash. The first week of the Tour de France took out more than 25 riders with broken bones, and poor Martin Jilinghi was one of those riders. And making a quicker recovery, it appears, than Andy Schleck's injury, because Andy was already out of the race at that stage by some 2 weeks. And they're both making their comeback here. Still no answer to that breakaway, but I think if the peloton ride like this, they will feel they have total control over these 5 now as they come up through the finishing line area again at 300 meters to go. Craig Lewis done a lot of work here, anxious to fly the flag for the champion team, of course, and hope that his sprinter back in the bunch, Zhu, can do something when he comes down to a sprint. 31 kilometers to go now. That's just about 35 minutes of racing. The breakaway has been away from the gun. The gap now continuing to come down. Peloton taking up the whole road. That's a sure sign that the pressure's gone off a little bit here. Maybe they feel that they've got them under control. They don't want to chase them down just yet. They want to let them fry in the late afternoon sun here in Beijing. But those following cars I don't think will be allowed to stay in there for very much longer. The rule is normally get within 40 seconds or so they'll be asked to move away so as not to provide a springboard for the race to chase them down. Very, very strong Astana team here. Those are the riders there in the turquoise colours from Kazakhstan. 2 national champions on the squad. Andrei Grivko from the Ukraine, who's also the national champion of the time trial as well as the road race, and Tanel Kangat, the champion of Estonia. So they've just gone through there, and they've gone through with around about 45 seconds advantage, the breakaway. And still Orica Greenedge setting the pace. They could do a little bit of help. Garate is the rider Rabobank in 3rd place. He's never been out the first 3 from the peloton every time he's gone through this finishing area. Always keeping an eye on things. Daniela Bernati going round there in the black colours. Also a potential sprint finisher here if he gets his chance. He's on good form on the stage of the Vuelta just towards the end of the Tour, which meant he was coming out of that 3-week race in good condition. And it's only finished a couple of weeks ago, so if he's carried that form here to China, he could be a threat in the sprint. Over the bridge and far away as they say goodbye to the Bird's Nest before they get to the far end of the course, at the far end of the Olympic Park, circumnavigate the bottom and race back up to the finishing line. Well, this has been a very routine start for the riders today, the 143 riders, although we have heard that one rider from France has just dropped out, David Bouchier. So we're down to 142. Davis Finney kept his nose clean today, hasn't gone to the front, hasn't been at the back. He's a man that will look for the courses a little bit later on. He had a tremendous year, Davis Finney. He's the son of Connie Carpenter Finney, who was the first woman to win a gold medal in the Olympic Games road race when it was introduced in the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984. She beat Rebecca Twigg, her countrywoman, right on the line in a photo finish, and she's married to Davis Finney, a two-time winner of stages in the Tour de France, and so he's got all the genes required. And this year he's had 2 fourth places in the Olympic Games in London in both the time trial and the road race, and the climax, I'm sure, was his silver medal at the World Championships in the time trial in Valkenburg in Limburg in Holland. And I have to say, if you'd have seen his face on the podium, he was absolutely disappointed beyond belief, because he was catching up with the time of Tony Martin. And I think if the race had gone on 1 more kilometre, the result would have been different. But the silver medal was his anyway. Now a little chat with Mark Madio here from Le Danube. Well, Mark Madio doesn't always smile, and there's no exception there, but he's just talking there with Le Danube and probably telling him he's wasting his time now because they're coming up, but he's got 6 seconds time bonus. I don't think they can possibly dream of victory between the 5 of them here, because there's been a change of tactics at the front now, and it looks as though Liquigas Cannondale has sent 4 riders, maybe even 5 riders to the front here. I said earlier they've got 2 sprinters on the team, Viviani and Moser, and those 2 seem to swap around the victories this year. Between them, they've won 11 races, helping each other in the sprints, and it looks as though they're feeling pretty confident just now. 131, right of our camera there, that is Theo Bos. He's still riding a long way down the overall situation. And just looking here at number 31, Taylor Phinney, having a chat with one of his friends, although certainly not one of his teammates there, and that is Rui Costa from Portugal, who's also had a very good season this year. Former winner of the Tour of Switzerland. You can see now by the speed, we're moving towards dusk here now. It's only about an hour and a half away before the sun will be gone here in Beijing. It's dark by 6:15 in the evening at this time of the year. But as the sun gets longer, the pace gets quicker, because the riders know that they're coming down towards the finishing lap. And the Orica Green Edge now got 2 riders on the front. They've managed to break into the Liquigas Cannondale train. Rabobank have got 1 rider in there. These boys are now coming up at the bell lap to go. These are desperate moments, I think, now. All the cars have been taken away, and I think if we were able to pan that camera around, you're going to find these riders are no more than about 12 seconds behind those leaders. In international cycle racing, if you finish in the big pack, you all get the same time. So these couple of seconds bonus for the first 3 across the line could be crucial. Still riding far too near the back on the left of our picture there. It is Zhu Gang of China, the 5 times Chinese champion. Maybe a little overwhelmed at the moment with the quality of the field, because for him, like with his team, they've never clashed against World Tour riders before. Tol van Summeren riding off camera, number 67, while number 62 here is Thomas Dekker. Spent as much time on his iPad this week as he has on his bike, I think. Turning in towards the finishing straight there, and closing in rapidly now. Orica Green Edge sensing they have 2 very good sprinters, Lee Howard and Edis Krupis, who I think is probably the faster of the 2 at the moment. And it would probably be Howard who would try to take him to the line if that was to be the way. And there's the difference now, no difference at all here. And Le Danube just looked over his shoulder, double take, and he thought, well, this is it now, what are we going to do? Because it looks to me as though Adriano Malori is still happy to push on here, the rider from Lampre. He's really developing into a very good bike rider, Malori. He's a good time trialist, and he's in his element here in a breakaway of this length. 90 kilometres they've been up front today, these 5 riders. It's about to end now as they come through for what will be the bell. Now everybody looking at each other. Interesting to see that the black tops there of the Lotto Belisol team have brought their riders to the front. They have Greg Henderson there as a likely candidate for a stage victory. Still 1 lap to go. We see 2, but it says 1 on the other side. You'll have to take my word for that as they show it last lap to the field here. Or maybe it is 2 laps to go at the moment, but some of the boards they were showing had different numbers on the other side. Well, we'll find out when they come round. I didn't hear a bell. That's what makes me think maybe it is still 2 laps to go. 11 seconds the gap. Lotto Belisol on the left. All of the teams with sprinters here now have moved their teams to the front to try and control the peloton. Loss of coordination in the breakaway. Now Mallory knows that they're right up behind as well. So too does Bert Lindemann on the far left of our picture at the rear. Craig Lewis doesn't care, he's just getting on with the job in hand. And just dropping away from the action there for the first time since we came onto the circuit was Juan Garate, the Spanish champion. He's done his pacemaking job done. He's kept that peloton in close touch for Theo Bos. And they've given up, but Craig Lewis to decide to give it one more chance. He's 9 kilometres from the finish of the race. He's determined to fly the home flag for his Chinese team for as long as possible here while the others wait for the finish. But 10 seconds is not going to be enough. Until this year, he's had a very good career on World Tour teams. He came across from the now defunct HTC team and found a place on the champion squad, but having to recover from a very serious injury he had in the Giro d'Italia 2 years ago. So it's for him, it's also a little bit of a comeback here on this team. He broke his femur on the 19th day of the Tour of Italy, the Giro d'Italia, last year. Judging by the way he's pedaling, he's completely recovered from that. But once they've got this close to catching up, they're not going to let him go now. The long straight roads, the 5 lanes of traffic normally on here. You couldn't put a pin between the cars on a normal day, but not today here in Beijing. The road's all closed, of course, as he now tries to hang on. 1.25 laps to go to the finish. And they're more preoccupied with making sure they've got their sprinters in the right position now, because it is quite a difficult finish this. It's over 1 kilometre straight to the finishing line. The wind is in a bad position, and if the sprinters hit the front too soon, they won't make the finishing line in first place. Good work being done now by the 2 Swiss riders here, Danilo Weiss and Martin Kohler in second place for the team BMC. Which could be an indicator that perhaps Taylor Phinney might be interested in having a little dig for the finish today. Then follows 4 or 5 riders from the Lotto Belisol team, and the last man in the line will be Greg Henderson. He's their sprinter. Omega Pharma Quick Step in that light sky blue colour. They're trying to bring forward Andy Fenn and also Francisco Kiki, the 2 sprinters on that squad. Well, because the roads are so wide here, all of the big teams are able to form their own trains alongside each other, which is very unusual. And now looking at Rabobank, they've got their team organised, and all of a sudden Theo Bos is no longer down the back of the pack. He's now number 5 in line in the front group here of the boys in orange. So they're trying to organise the train for him. Well, they can't complain about not knowing where the finishing line is today, despite the fact the banner has had to be taken down because of the wind. because they've gone through it already 12 times, and the 13th passage will be the finish. There's the bell, so it's 1 lap to go. And the peloton, because of the speed, making that narrow finish straight look quite wide at the moment as they stretch out. And Johan van Summeren has also got himself from the back to the front now to do some work for the Garmin Sharp squad, and that'll be for Heinrich Hausler to try and do what he can for him. And Fabian Weckmann, the national champion of Germany, also up in the mix. Those light white top shoulders going around the corner now of Orica Greenedge, the Australian team, which got its first crack at the Tour de France this year. Had a remarkable first year with victories in some major events, including the Santos Tour Down Under, which began the World Tour Series back in January in Australia. And also Milan San Remo was a big classic victory for them with Simon Gerrans, although Gerrans not riding here. Van Summeren, the tall man in blue, now up in 4th place there, just trying to contribute to the speed in the hope that Heinrich Hausler will move forward, because at the moment these boys have got no teammates on the back wheel except the riders from Orica Greenedge. And their sprinters are Lee Howard and Adis Krupis. This is Weckmann. Also on the Garmin team, but wearing the white colours of champion of Germany. A lot of head twitching going on as we just tickle 60 kilometres an hour here. Must be a tailwind just at the moment. This is the last lap, coming round for the last half of the circuit now. Once the sprinters make the turn into that last kilometre and a bit up towards the finishing line, they are going to have to make sure they are out of the wind, which is ripping across the course on the finishing straight, because if they get onto the wind and it hits them, then they'll be finding their sprint is blunted. And it is again Astana now bringing it up to new levels. Just moving on the left of the picture now is the Liquigas Cannondale team, as they all start to try and move up their sprinters, Viviani and Moser. Shoulder to shoulder, AG2R even trying to break in now. They need a few points on the World Tour circuit, I think, because they're tickling the bottom of the division on the World Tour teams. As now we've got the movement starting from Rabobank, and they look as though they've got themselves pretty well organised. They had a slow start to the year as far as victories were concerned, but they've had a very good August and September. Astana to the right. The white jerseys of the French team, AG2R La Mondiale. And coming up on the left of the picture now, the hard-working Omega team. They are the team of the defending champion Tony Martin, but I wouldn't expect to see Tony Martin try to take the sprint out. More likely to be Kiki or Fenn, the two sprinters on the squad. Fenn is just tucked in. He's the tall boy towards the rear of that group of riders from the Omega team. Rabobank has spotted the move here by Omega, because they've moved their train onto the back of the team of Omega. While still trying to break in is the black jersey there of Greg Henderson's team from Lotto. They're staying centre at the minute. There's actually no real coordination amongst the sprinters' teams here. They're just grabbing space and trying to do the best with it. This could be down to the conditions of the wind whipping across the course. They're racing up towards this final turn, which will bring them into the home straight just now. 1,500 metres to go as they come off that final bend, and this is going to make it very, very difficult for the sprinters. And Sky have suddenly taken an interest in the black jerseys. They've only got 5 riders in the race. They came with the smallest allowed team for the event, minimum of 5 riders, maximum of 8 riders in the squad. They only brought 5, and the reason the white jersey you can see peeping in about 5th or 6th, just got a little bit swamped out of it there, was Edward Boysenhagen, the champion of Norway, who when he wants to can pack a very, very quick sprint finish. And this is a strongman finish today as well as a pure sprinter. 2 kilometres to go now before the last turn up towards the line. And this has been a little bit of a quick turn here, and it looks to me as it could be Alex Dowsett here turning up the pressure at the front. She grits his teeth. but he's opened up such a lead over the rest now, that's rather disrupted the sprinters, because he'll be very shortly turning into the kilometre banner. Rabobank still have control here as they come around this left-hander. Now they will see, if they have good eyesight, the finishing line, because the banner isn't there anymore. Otherwise they would have seen it off that bottom bend. Would have helped them judge the distance. Rabobank realising they haven't got Theo Bos in the slipstream, swing off the front. Bos is still there, but he's not got a team around him anymore. Don't know what happened to the Rabobank team. They were all there a moment ago. They've been washed away. The teams are all over the place just now. Greg Henderson is in 4th place for Lotto. Lost all of his lead-out men now. And Orica Greenedge trying to get themselves back in condition. They seem to have control. Sorry about a little bit of picture break up there as they go under the kilometre kite. Now Orica Greenedge have got themselves here in a very, very strong position indeed. But so too is the Sky Squad here now as the riders start to nip in. That's a good move by Theo Bos trying to get in on the action. There is Bos, 131. Got himself now into a very, very good position on the wheel of Mitchell Docker from Orica Greenedge, as Docker now tries to bring his team up towards the finishing line. Now he didn't want to go up there to the lead, but he's had no choice here, as now he's had to lead out here, and in fact Theo Bos does not want to be in that position at the start as they launch for the finish now. The sprinters have got themselves in more than a spot of bother here as they open up now. Krupis is launched towards the line, the big sprinter on Orica Greenedge, as he goes on the left of the picture. And Andrew Fenn tries to get up in the centre, and on the far right of the picture Viviani is coming, and it's going to be Viviani on the line who snatches it from nowhere. Well, Viviani has not won a race since the 2nd week of March, and he's just delivered his 7th win of the year here in October. The Italian crossing the line there to get the victory. Watch him on the right. He read the win perfection. He came on the lee side of the win, and that has helped him enormously. And you can see by the nod of the head there of Andrew Fenn, he loses it by just over a bike length here. And Fenn has got some good form, and Fenn told me only yesterday he was working today to get his teammate Kiki the win, but on the day, with it being such a strong man finishing the win, he's had to take the job on himself. Beaten though, Viviani on the far right slips through, he gets the victory, and Edvard Boysenhagen there, a very good 3rd place for the champion of Norway. But the celebrations down to Viviani, his 7th win of the year. Keeping up his reputation here with his 2nd win in his 2nd Tour of Beijing. He won stage 4 a year ago. Team congratulating him. He'll be the first wearer of the red jersey because the 10-second win bonus will be enough to give him the overall lead by 4 seconds. There's the result. Viviani gets the victory. Fenn, Edvard Boysenhagen and Kenny Van Hummel. We can go to Dave Colbert, who's talking now with Elia Viviani.
What is it about you and China? Because last year you won stage 4, this year stage 1. You obviously like it here.
I think I am very, very strong in the final season. After the Vuelta, I have good legs, a good condition. I stay concentrated in my objective, and my objective is a win, and today I win.
Okay, this time last year, Tony Martin was the leader after day 1 and he won the Tour. Can you do the same thing?
But this Tour of Beijing, I think, is very different in the last year because no time trial, and more clean. But Tony Martin, I think, can repeat this victory.
So Elia Viviani, another win here. Now let's see him be presented as he's brought out here. He's actually going to be the leader in 3 of the classifications here because he also qualifies for the best young rider competition. And with his points there, he'll also lead in the green jersey points competition. But let's start first of all with his stage winner's golden plaque here. Looks like a rather larger version of the Olympic Beijing gold medal of 4 years ago, and a beautiful engraved plaque there of the Bird's Nest Stadium and the Olympic Park. 7th win of the year, and as he says, he seems he comes to good form towards the end of the season. So he will be the overall leader. There's the situation. He now leads the race going into tomorrow's stage by 4 seconds over Fenn and Ladanu, who got those bonuses on course today. Boysenhagen is in 4th. Kenny Van Hummel is in 5th, and the main field at 10 seconds. They split the field, in fact, and Taylor Phinney was in a group at 19 seconds. This is the red leader's jersey he will wear tomorrow. He might find it difficult tomorrow because there are 3 quite hard mountains, beginning with a first category climb. And so, but for the moment, he is the leader of the race. And he'll go out with that scant lead of 4 seconds, but the climbers may have their day tomorrow. Tomorrow, it is 126 kilometres. We'll see you then.